Satnam Singh, the giant who broke the NBA door open. What if I told you a kid from a dusty Indian village who grew up milking cows, didn't even know what basketball was, and had never touched a real ball, somehow made the NBA recognize his name? He didn't speak English, he didn't have proper training or access to coaches. Yet one day, that same kid stood under the bright lights of New York, shaking hands with NBA executives, wearing a Dallas Mavericks cap. 7'2" from the fields of Punjab, a farm boy turned phenomenon. He became India's first ever NBA draft pick, a moment that made over 1 billion people believe it was possible. But this wasn't some fairy tale. It was a brutal climb filled with doubt, isolation, and sacrifice. He left his family, his language, and everything familiar behind to chase a dream no one in India had ever reached before. So, without further ado, meet Satnam Singh Bamara, also known as the Indian Giant. Satnam Singh wasn't born into a gym or a sports academy. He was born into farmland, acres of golden wheat under the heat of the Punjab sun. In Ballo Ke, his tiny village of just a few hundred people, life followed a simple rhythm. Wake up before dawn, work the fields, and repeat. Basketball didn't exist there. There were no courts, no coaches, not even a proper hoop. The closest thing to a net was a rusted bucket nailed to a wooden pole. Electricity was inconsistent, water came from wells, and the only crowds were cows grazing in the distance. But even in this simple world, Satnam stood out, literally. By the age of 9, he was 6 feet tall. Villagers would stop and stare, joking that he could reach the clouds. They called him the Giant, half in awe, half in disbelief. His father, Ballo Ke, a wheat farmer with massive hands and a bigger heart, noticed something in his son's frame potential. With no proper gym, Ballo built his own. He used scrap metal for weights, turned the barn into a workout space, and had Satnam sprint between the crops to build endurance. The drills were rough, improvised, and old school, but they built discipline, and discipline built Satnam. He didn't have fancy shoes or nutrition plans. What he had was grit. Every jump shot on dirt made him a little tougher. Every run in the fields made him a little stronger. Basketball wasn't supposed to find him, but destiny doesn't always wait for permission. And soon, someone was about to notice the towering kid with the quiet eyes and relentless drive. Opportunity finally knocked when local scouts from the Ludhiana Basketball Academy came looking for tall kids with potential. When they met Satnam, they didn't just find tall, they found towering. At 14, he was already over 6'7", with long arms, broad shoulders, and raw coordination. The academy was one of the few serious basketball programs in India. It wasn't glamorous. The roof leaked during monsoon, and half the balls were deflated. But it was the best the country had. For Satnam, it felt like paradise. Leaving home wasn't easy. His family lived hours away and he barely spoke Hindi, let alone English. But the moment he walked into that gym, something changed. The sound of sneakers squeaking and basketballs bouncing filled his world with rhythm. The coaches immediately saw something in him, a body built for the sport and a work ethic that outshined everyone else. He ran endless drills, jump squats, hook shots until his legs burned. When there weren't enough players for scrimmages, he trained alone, repeating footwork patterns until sunset. While other kids went home after practice, Satnam stayed behind, shooting in the dark until his arms gave out. The academy couldn't give him comfort, but it gave him structure, and structure turned his height into hope. By the time he turned 15, he was dominating state tournaments. He wasn't polished, but he was unstoppable under the rim. The whispers began, could this be the one? India had never produced a professional basketball player, but Satnam made that dream feel slightly less ridiculous. No one knew it yet, but the gates of Ludhiana had just opened the path to the NBA. In 2010, Satnam got an opportunity so big it didn't even make sense, a full scholarship to IMG Academy in Florida, through a program sponsored by the NBA and Reliance. He had never been on a plane before. He didn't speak English. He didn't even own proper luggage. But that didn't stop him. With one backpack and a heart full of courage, he flew 8,000 miles away from Punjab, leaving behind his family, his farm, and everything he knew. When he arrived at IMG, it was like landing on another planet. The facility looked like something out of a dream. Massive indoor courts, digital scoreboards, strength rooms the size of warehouses. For Satnam, who trained on mud floors, it was overwhelming. He was surrounded by future NBA stars, kids who had been coached since age 5 who spoke the language of the game fluently. Satnam, meanwhile, was still learning English and basketball at the same time. He didn't understand the drills, struggled to keep up in classes, and often needed a translator just to get through the day. But he had one thing that made coaches keep believing: effort. He never complained, never skipped a session, never quit. Every morning, he was first in the gym, every night, last to leave. Over 5 years, he transformed from a project into a legitimate player. By his senior year, Satnam was averaging solid numbers: 9 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks against elite American talent. He wasn't a prodigy, but he was progressing. And for a kid who started with nothing, progress was everything. After 5 years in Florida, Satnam finally had the skills to compete. The next logical step was college basketball, the true gateway to the NBA. He dreamed of playing for Kentucky or Michigan State, but when the time came, reality hit hard. His grades and English test scores didn't meet the NCAA's academic requirements. It wasn't a lack of effort, the system just wasn't built for someone like him. No college team could take him. The door was shut, but Satnam had a new ally, sports agent Travis King. King saw what others missed: untapped potential and global appeal. If college wasn't an option, they'd take a different path straight to the NBA. Satnam was 19, which technically made him eligible for the 2015 NBA draft. No one from India had ever declared before. He was stepping into uncharted territory. The idea sounded crazy. Scouts said he wasn't ready. Analysts said he'd go undrafted. But Satnam didn't care. He had been doubted since the day he picked up a ball. He spent months training in Chicago, grinding through private workouts and team interviews. He met legends Larry Bird, Vlade Divac, who admired his humility and drive. And while the odds were slim, everyone knew one thing: the kid from Punjab wasn't afraid of taking big shots. On draft night, he wasn't looking for fame, just a chance. One opportunity to show that India too could reach the NBA. June 25th, 2015, Barclays Center, Brooklyn. The world watched as name after name flashed across the screen. Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Kristaps Porzingis, Devin Booker. The stars of tomorrow were being chosen one by one. Satnam waited quietly in a Dallas hotel room, his suit slightly oversized, his heart pounding louder than the TV speakers. His phone stayed silent. The second round dragged on. It looked like the dream was slipping away. Then history.
2015 NBA Draft, the Dallas Mavericks select Satnam Singh.
Cheers erupted. His agent screamed. Reporters called. India exploded in celebration. He had done it. The first Indian-born player ever drafted into the NBA. That night, Satnam wasn't just a player, he was a headline across a billion screens. Cricket took a back seat, and for once, basketball ruled the conversation in India. But behind the excitement, reality was waiting. Because in the NBA, history doesn't guarantee minutes, it only gets you in the door. And what you do after that decides everything.
He rolls on here in Las Vegas. There is Singh getting his first deuce.
Satnam joined the Mavericks Summer League team in Las Vegas. He didn't play much, but his efforts stood out. Coaches liked his attitude, even if his timing was off. But when preseason ended, he wasn't ready for the NBA roster. Instead, he was sent to the Texas Legends, the Mavs D-League affiliate.
Just a little shoulder shot on getting, knocks him back 2 or 3 feet under the basket.
That's where the grind began. The G League is basketball's boot camp. Cheap buses, small crowds, and hungry players fighting for one thing: call-up. For Satnam, it was both a classroom and a crucible. He practiced harder than ever, but the speed of the game was brutal. Guards zipped past him, bigs out-muscled him. In 19 games, he averaged 1.5 points and 1.5 rebounds. Modest numbers, but each point came with bruises. He wasn't failing, he was learning the hard way. But the league doesn't slow down for anyone.
Still looking for his first field goal, dumping off to Singh, his second bucket.
As years passed, new prospects replaced him. Coaches moved on. The spotlight faded. Satnam wasn't built for the modern NBA, a league now obsessed with speed and spacing. Still, he didn't complain. He kept working, even as others gave up. Because to him, just being there meant everything. He had already done what no one from India had ever done, and that mattered more than stats. Being the first sounds like an honor, but it's also a burden few can understand. Every move Satnam made after the draft was watched, analyzed, and judged not just by basketball fans, but by an entire country desperate to see itself represented on the world stage. Every rebound missed, every turnover, every quiet stat line became another headline back home. The label came fast. India's Yao Ming. It sounded flattering, but it was wildly unfair. Yao had come from a system that had decades of investment in national leagues, government-funded training, and Olympic-level resources.
Games, there's all sorts of fun and festivities.
Satnam came from a wheat field. He had no blueprint, no mentors, and no professional network to fall back on. He was expected to carry a dream no one had ever achieved before and do it perfectly. That kind of pressure changes a person. Satnam wasn't just playing basketball anymore. He was playing for identity, for pride, for proof that India could belong on the basketball map. Every time he stepped on the floor, he could feel it, a billion invisible eyes. When he returned to India in 2017 to join the national team for the FIBA Asia Cup, the reception was thunderous. Crowds packed the arenas just to see him warm up. Kids climbed fences for a glimpse of the giant in the blue jersey. But behind that jersey sat an impossible expectation of dominance. People didn't want effort, they wanted miracles. On the court, Satnam gave everything, boxing out stronger players, diving for loose balls, shouting encouragement in Hindi and English mixed together. But the weight of comparison never left. Every foul felt heavier, every mistake louder. His confidence, once his greatest strength, began to erode under the noise. He had gone from being the next big thing to being treated like a cautionary tale. Maybe the NBA was too big for Indians, critics whispered, but Satnam never lashed back. Instead, he chose humility. He began mentoring younger players in India's small basketball academies, teaching them proper stance, balance, discipline. He told them, don't chase fame, chase the fundamentals. Work on your footwork, your mind, your body. Height helps, but it's not everything. He reminded them that patience was as important as talent.
Syracuse, Final 14, 1987.
Singh on the inside.
In those quiet sessions, away from cameras, Satnam found peace again. He was no longer the headline, he was the foundation. His own dream might have slowed, but through his guidance, dozens of new dreams were beginning. Being the first had nearly broken him, but it also made him into something greater, a teacher, a pioneer, and a symbol that failure isn't final when you still choose to lift others.
Look at that pass. That's beautiful. That's a good catch and finish with the left hand.
Satnam Singh's career hadn't ended. It had simply evolved into something even more meaningful. 2019 was supposed to be the comeback year. Satnam Singh had quietly rebuilt himself, training twice a day in small Indian gyms that barely had working air conditioning. He was leaner, faster, and mentally sharper. For the first time since his draft night, he was starting to look like the player everyone had once imagined. That year, India entered the FIBA World Cup qualifiers. It wasn't a glamorous tournament, but it was a stage, and Satnam knew that might be his last real chance to show the world he still belonged in the game. Against Syria, he went all. 18 points, 8 rebounds, and a dominant inside presence that made defenders look miniature next to him. His footwork looked improved, his conditioning solid. For once, the scoreboard told a good story. Then came Jordan, a tougher opponent, Satnam played 35 minutes, dropped 20 points, grabbed 10 boards, and looked unstoppable. His teammates fed off his energy. Fans back home started believing again. News outlets ran with the headline, "Satnam Singh returned stronger, but fate can be cruel." Weeks later, everything fell apart. During a routine doping test, Satnam tested positive for hygenamine, a stimulant sometimes found in fat burners and pre-workout supplements. It wasn't steroids, it wasn't performance enhancing in any significant way, but in professional sports, a banned substance is a banned substance. He insisted he didn't even know what it was. The punishment didn't care, a 2-year suspension from all competition. At 24, that's devastating. 2 years may not sound like much, but for an athlete, it's an eternity. Bodies slow down, reflexes fade, confidence erodes. The phone stops ringing, scouts stop asking, sponsors vanish. Overnight, Satnam went from a rising symbol of hope back to being an afterthought.
Summer League play. Singh rolling to the basket, and he'll shoot free throw.
I wish the camera could be on Mark Cuban.
In India, where basketball already struggles for visibility, people moved on fast. The league forgot him, the media stopped calling, but inside, he refused to surrender. He trained in private, flipping tires, running hills, doing push-ups until his arms shook. Sometimes alone in an empty gym, he'd whisper to himself, "You're not done yet." Those 2 years were brutal, but cleansing. He learned patience. He studied the game differently, focusing on the mental side, spacing, angles, and foot positioning. And when the suspension finally lifted, Satnam had clarity. The NBA dream was gone, but maybe the mission wasn't. He realized he didn't need a basketball to represent his country. What he needed was a platform. And if basketball had taken him as far as it could, maybe destiny was pointing him towards something else, something that still needed a giant. Satnam Singh did the opposite. He transformed. In 2021, he signed with All Elite Wrestling, AEW, one of the world's premier pro wrestling companies. The announcement shocked everyone. People asked, wait, the basketball player? He's wrestling now? Yes, he meant business. For the first time in years, Satnam had a reason to smile again. The ring wasn't just a stage, it was a rebirth. The same height and strength that once made him a basketball curiosity now made him a natural-born spectacle. He threw himself into training like a rookie, again learning grapples, strikes, storytelling, crowd psychology. Wrestling isn't fake, it's performance with pain, and Satnam respected that. Every slam hurt, every fall bruised, but it gave him something basketball hadn't in years: adrenaline and belonging. Coaches said he picked things up fast. He already had footwork, balance, and timing skills borrowed straight from basketball. Within months, he was performing in front of roaring crowds, towering over other wrestlers and feeding off their cheers, and those crowds loved him. They didn't see a failed basketball player, they saw a new superstar, a towering Indian giant reclaiming his power. When he walked down the ramp with lights flashing and music booming, you could feel the same energy that once surrounded his NBA draft moment. This time, though, the spotlight wasn't pressure, it was freedom.
Going on to Orange County.
Satnam! Oh, God, that's pretty massive.
Could be the beginning of the end for Pretty.
In basketball, he'd been told to move faster, shoot better, fit into systems. In wrestling, he could finally be himself. His size was his strength, his presence, his weapon. AEW marketed him as the Indian Giant, pairing him with veterans who helped him build confidence and charisma. Soon, highlight reels of Satnam tossing opponents across the ring went viral in wrestling circles. He even hinted at chasing championship gold, not for fame, but to show India that reinvention can be power. Satnam wasn't chasing redemption anymore, he was living it. In every arena he stepped into, kids waved the Indian flag. Reporters asked about his journey, and he always said the same thing. Basketball made me who I am, wrestling gave me another chance to prove it. Maybe that's the real lesson. Greatness isn't one straight path. Sometimes you miss your shot only to discover another game entirely, one where your limits finally make sense. Satnam Singh's basketball dream had ended, but the giant had found a new kingdom. And under those blinding arena lights, he realized something profound. You don't have to make the league to make an impact. You just have to keep showing up no matter what arena life puts you in. So what is Satnam Singh's legacy? He never made an NBA roster. He never scored a point under the bright lights of a real NBA game. But he did something bigger and proved it was possible. Before 2015, no one from India had been drafted into the NBA. No kid from Punjab or Delhi or Mumbai thought that dream was realistic. Satnam changed that. He cracked open a door that had been locked for decades. Today, because of him, Indian players are being scouted at younger ages. Grassroots programs are growing. Kids have role models in basketball. Every time an Indian teenager picks up a ball and says, "Maybe I can do this," that's Satnam's impact. He didn't change the league, he changed the mindset. And sometimes that's more powerful than any stat sheet. His career teaches one truth. Success isn't always about becoming a star. Sometimes it's about being the first one who takes the hits so others can walk through. Satnam Singh may never have played an NBA game, but he'll forever be known as the man who broke the NBA door open. The giant who carried 1 billion bodies stumbled and still stood tall. Because in the end, legends aren't measured by their points, but by the doors they leave open behind them. If you enjoyed this story, click like, subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for more. See you in the next one.